Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the Way Too Indiecast, the official podcast of way2indie.com. I'm Bernard, a writer at Way Too Indie, coming to you from the Bay Area in California. And joining me today are two of my good buddies from the site. From New Jersey, we've got Zach Shevich, a writer at Way Too Indie and host of the Multiplex Movie Review Show on YouTube.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going very well for me, for the listeners as well. And
Hopefully.
coming from Chicago, one of the best movie cities in the country, in the United States. We've got CJ from Canada, so that's why who's not on the show today.
All-American panel.
Yeah,
for
we've got an all-American panel from Chicago. We've got Aaron Pinkston, another writer at Way Too Indie. What's up, Aaron?
Not much, not too much. I think that's my new nickname, the Panimal.
The Panimal.
Aaron the Panimal.
We're going to have a lot of fun today on this week's show. We're going to be doing weekly shows now, guys. It's exciting. On today's episode, we're going to be covering a lot of topics. We're going to be talking about movies we've been watching recently and that we've liked. We're also going to be looking ahead and looking at blockbusters. Last week we had a very indie-fied episode of the podcast. But this week, we're going to be talking about some blockbusters coming out later this year that we're really excited for. There are a lot, so I think that's going to be a great conversation. Then after that, we're going to close out the show by discussing something that's really fascinating to me, what our ideal movie-watching environments are. That's going to be great. I think everyone has their own unique preferences, and I'm excited to hear what you guys like to adorn your your movie watching environment with. Get things started, we're going to be talking about new directors, new films, which is a co-production of MoMA and the Film Society of Lincoln Center, and it's been the host to many terrific directors' early work, including Steven Spielberg, Kelly Reichardt, and Pedro Almodovar, amongst many others. It's the festival will be taking place from Wednesday, March 18th through to the 29th of this month of March. And the two venues, I think, are just the Lincoln Center and MoMA in NYC, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I believe it's just those two places as well, and they're both really great places to check out a movie. Might be worth discussing in our later segment.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm really jealous that that Zach lives so close to those places and in that city. But we're also gonna have a lot of coverage, a ton of coverage from new directors, new films, a lot of reviews from that festival this week on the website. So check out the website. Lots going on there. It's still our anniversary month. We're 5 years old. We're not 6 years old yet. 6 years old is when it's the worst age ever. CJ, Zach, you're gonna be you're covering new directors, new films, and you've actually seen a couple films from the festival already.
Yeah, I've had the chance to see some of the movies highlighting the festival. CJ has a lot of our coverage on the website, so you again check out the website for more of our reviews. But the opening night movie is The Diary of a Teenage Girl. It is one of the standout films from this year's Sundance Film Festival, and it's the debut movie from Marielle Heller. She writes and adapts the screenplay from a novel written by Phoebe Gleckner. I might be getting that name wrong, but it's about a 15-year-old aspiring artist, very kind of like grungy comic book type of artist. She's living in San Francisco in the 1970s, and the movie kind of starts off with pretty much its mission statement. She says in voiceover, "I just had sex, holy shit." And it kind of is this exploration of, a young girl's burgeoning sexuality mixed with her naivete and hopefulness. And it's a really interesting movie that tells kind of like a familiar arc in the whole coming of age, reckoning with your sexuality aspect of it, but I think you get it done with a particularly engaging voice in Heller's here. The movie frequently will take these diversions into animated sequences that are pretty funny, and it's got this very youthful quality to the narration, to the voiceover, that it doesn't really feel like someone older explaining a younger person's thoughts. It feels like something that a young person would say to explain their own thoughts. It's not, some of it may feel a little obvious, like they're telling you rather than showing you, but it's never in disservice of the movie. It really makes you feel like this is the girl expressing herself in the only way she knows how, and you get a very quirky look at this young girl's life. Kristen Wiig plays her mother, and she enters into an affair with her mother's boyfriend, who's 35 years old, and it just becomes this whole messy situation. But it's not one of those movies that sex is something that happens to her. It's something that she willingly takes part in, and she gets to kind of explore her becoming an adult in the movie. So I looked back at that movie kind of thinking that if I were 16 years old, and more specifically if I were a 16-year-old girl, that movie would probably mean a lot to me. I really bought into the characters, and it was most of all funny. It made me laugh and kept me interested the whole way through. So that was, for me, maybe not the best made film I saw at the festival, but definitely the one that I would recommend to most people. It's very enjoyable.
Well, there's a 16-year-old girl inside all of us.
Yes.
We all know that. We all know that.
Waiting to hear their secret diary,
and we all have crushes on Alexander Skarsgård as well.
Yeah. It's easy to get wrapped up in the scars. So
the scars.
Yes. So that opens the New Directors, New Films Festival on March 18th this week. But the closing night movie is a very different type of comedy. Some would maybe even describe it as an anti-comedy. It's called Entertainment, and I know CJ is very jealous of me that I got to see it. I was not quite as big of a fan as I think he might have hoped I was, considering I got the chance to see it before him. It's written and directed by Rick Alverson, but it is co-written by both Tim Heidecker of Tim and Eric fame and Greg Turkington, who is the film's star. Greg Turkington, for years, has been playing this character in stand-up routines called Neil Hamburger. Yeah, and it's a really hilarious character, just a version on the stand-up comedian who's very brass, who's very, very vulgar, and has these one-liners that are so shocking that you can't help but laugh at them. So for people who like that character and, coming in with knowledge of him, of Greg Turkington, they might find more to like in this movie than I did. I really loved the sequences featuring Neil Hamburger on stage doing stand-up. Jokes like what's the difference between the American flag and Courtney Love? It would be wrong to urinate on Courtney Love. Oh, shoot, I think I might have even missed. It would be wrong to urinate on the American flag.
Yeah. I was going to say.
I lose all street cred there. But
very, very different punchline.
Very, very different.
Depending on where you go with that. But you know what? Both kind of work.
Both do kind of work. And the movie around it is what didn't work as well for me. It's kind of shows Neil in the process before he goes on stage, observing crowds, going through awkward interactions with family or fans or just hecklers even. A lot of the movie rather deals with his treatment of hecklers, and it seems like it's an examination of, the way we deal with our entertainment, what the purpose of entertainment is, how we treat entertainers. But I didn't really feel like the movie went too far beyond it, just implemented a lot of weird sequences that threw me off, whether it's a tangent about how colors make us feel, or these dream sequences where Neil Hamburger is dressed up in this spangled white cowboy outfit or something. I'm sure there will be people who really enjoy this movie. People who are already familiar definitely would. I was kind of mixed on Entertainment, though.
Entertainment, I see, features Miss Amy Seimetz, who I am such a big fan of. I love Amy Seimetz. I actually, this is an aside. It has nothing to do with anything. But there was a movie, Todd Luby's movie from 2012 called Be Good, and Amy Simons is in it, and they quoted Way Too Indie a couple times in the trailer.
Oh, wow.
And we're quoted right after, you see Amy Simons' face, and then you see my quote in there. So I felt a little closeness to her in that way. But I think that's like the only trailer Way Too Indie's ever been a part of.
So we have some Way Too Indie family in the movie, sort of.
We do. Yeah, they're our buddies. Amy Simons. She has no idea that she's our buddy. But
have either of you seen Alverson's movie before this, the comedy?
I haven't. That was one that I had tried to see before Entertainment, but didn't get a chance.
I think actually Tim and Eric are both in it, though Tim is the main character. That's not a movie I was really all that into as well. This anti-comedy, it's just, I don't know, not for me, I think.
Yeah.
But the premise of Entertainment seems very interesting. If it doesn't, I guess though, if it doesn't really work on that premise much, then that's kind of disappointing.
I mean, I was entertained for most of the movie. I did lose interest towards the latter half of it. It is almost 2 hours long. And I feel like if you didn't like the comedy, chances are you won't like this. Based on reviews I've read, that's obviously I haven't seen it, so I can't say specifically. But I'm not saying steer clear of Entertainment entirely, especially if you do like the Neil Hamburger character. So that was the closing night movie. I believe that's playing March 24th, something like that at the MoMA. So if you're in New York, might be worth checking out. Just a couple other quick highlights from new directors, new films. The Tribe, which has played a couple other festivals before this one, is a effectively silent film, 2.5 hour almost silent film, featuring a bunch of young teenagers at a school for the deaf in Ukraine. So the movie is done entirely in sign language, and it comes with a warning, maybe even at the beginning of the movie, that reads, this film is done entirely in sign language. There are no subtitles. There are no translations. There is no voiceover. So
it's amazing.
It's pretty amazing that how much they get done with that. I mean, it's an engaging story. It's one where you really can tell the dynamics between these people and understand the developments of the plot. It's not necessarily the most intricately woven story, but I was pretty stunned by the movie. And each scene is shot in a single take, and it's really beautifully photographed. So definitely a standout for me. CJ mentioned on the last podcast the movie Violet, about a boy who witnesses the murder of his friend, which I also found compelling. Not great, but good. And also worth checking out is White God. I described this on my Letterboxd account as Homeward Bound meets Old Boy. It's really an incredible, really bizarre movie featuring some of the most well-trained movie dogs I've ever seen. So definitely worth checking it out and reading the review on waytooindie.com.
Yeah, I'm really I wish I was over there, Zach. I wish I was over there to partake.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really interesting movies on the slate. Some more that I didn't even mention. Some more that I didn't even get to see that I'm hopefully buying a ticket for sometime this week. I've heard great things about Western and The Creation of Meaning, but haven't seen either.
Yeah, The Fool is one that I'm really looking forward to as well. Lots of good stuff at New Directors, New Films. Again, stay tuned to the website for comprehensive coverage of that festival. This is kind of right up our alley as far as festivals go, so we'll keep you updated on that. And now, moving on to the next topic, guys, let's talk about what we've been watching recently. Are there any recent gems that you've seen that you'd like to bring up here and recommend for us and our listeners?
I guess I could name a few here.
Yeah, I guess.
To, I guess, a good transition, you were talking Entertainment, which is in that anti-comedy sort of new genre that's popping up. A very interesting film that I hope one of you two have seen, or hopefully both maybe, which is sort of in line with that, though very different, is a French movie from Bruno Dumont called Petite Kenken, or Lil Kenken. Have either of you seen this?
I'm pretty sure CJ caught this at TIFF last year.
Yeah, I know it played some festivals late last year, and Cahiers du Cinema called it the best movie of 2014. So I think it's gotten a lot of a lot of leverage over that. But it's not. It's definitely not a mainstream movie. It's about 3 hours and 20 minutes long. Originally, it was a mini series for French television in 4 parts, and I guess they put it together as a film. It is very slow. It is, like I said, it's sort of in that anti-comedy where it's definitely very funny. There's a lot of laughs in it, but the way it gets its laughs is almost indescribable. It's all sort of based on these weird character tics, and basically nothing happening as you think it would happen. The basic premise of the movie, it takes place in this small French seaside town, which if you've seen any of Bruno Dumont's movies, that's sort of his area. And Ken is a young boy. He's probably about 10 or 11. It's the first day of summer, and he's this rebellious little boy who sort of gets in trouble with his neighborhood friends and things like that. And then all of a sudden, they find human remains inside of a cow, inside of a dead cow. And that sort of, that sparks the main plot of the film, which is this weird sort of procedural. These two French detectives come in to the town. More people end up getting murdered. They find more human remains inside of dead cows. And it, I guess, sort of is about this mystery of who committed these murders, but it's really not. It's a really difficult movie to describe the appeal of it, and it's not one I can totally recommend because it's so weird and also so long, and because of the way the anti-action of the entire film goes about, it feels even longer than its 3 hours and 20 minutes. So it is sort of a grueling experience, but there is something just so offbeat about it that I really appreciated in the end, even when I didn't really enjoy it that much. Have either of you seen anything by Bruno Dumont before?
No.
Yeah, I've only seen one other movie, which was called Outside Satan, which came out, I think, 3 years ago, and was sort of a different tone. It was definitely not a comedy. It was almost like a horror movie, but it was also one of these. It was also a film that was just kind of impossible to describe. It had that movie in particular, Outside Satan, has this sort of metaphysical character in it who's sort of patrolling the countryside of France, and you don't really get any idea as to who exactly it is, but based on the title and based on some things that happen in the film, you sort of suspect that this might actually be the devil. And it's just a bizarre and really gripping movie, whereas Lil Ken is also bizarre, but in sort of a lighter sense, even though with these murders there are some horrible things that happen. Dumont's definitely a provocateur, from what I understand from the two films I've seen, and I always like seeing filmmakers who take risks like that and really push the boundaries in terms of the narrative and the types of films that they're making. So it's interesting. It's not a movie I can wholeheartedly recommend, but if you're sort of willing to take that journey of a murder mystery sort of movie that isn't really a murder mystery and a comedy that really isn't a comedy that's 3.5 hours long, then it's worth the shot, I guess.
This is my favorite kind of movie.
Yeah, right.
Comedy that isn't a comedy, and murder mystery that isn't a murder mystery.
Right.
But no, that actually sounds pretty cool. I think I will check that out, actually. Zach, what have you seen lately? You watched probably more movies than anybody.
Yeah, I got a bunch because of this new director's new films screening list recently, and I mentioned The Diary of a Teenage Girl and The Tribe in the last segment, which are definitely two of the big standouts for me so far this year. Outside of that festival, I know we've already talked about Wild Tales on a previous podcast.
Love that movie.
Yeah,
best of the year so far, by far.
That's a great one, and if it's still in theaters around you, definitely worth checking that one out. Earlier in the year, I saw something, maybe a little over a month ago even, from Desiree Arkavan. I don't know really how to pronounce her name, but it's called Appropriate Behavior. It's this small little almost update on Annie Hall featuring Brooklyn hipster lesbians. Features her writing, directing, and starring in the movie, and it sort of documents this one relationship she went through that ended in a breakup, but like Annie Hall will give you all these flashbacks to when they were together and when it was working, and through this, montage of scenes, you get an idea of the type of person she is and why both she and her partner were ill-suited to maintain their relationship. But it's really charming, very funny, and well acted in that, it's pretty much what you ask for out of a romantic comedy. So I like that one a lot. And then more recently, It Follows just came out in some theaters. I know it's going to be on VOD March 27th. It's one that I saw at the Toronto International Film Festival last year, but got a chance to see again recently. And I was so impressed by this horror movie from David Robert Mitchell. It's got this really ominous tone, helped by that some would call overbearing, but I think is appropriate John Carpenter-esque score. And those long shots are so creepy with the It Follows presence slowly creeping towards the camera. It was the most unsettling horror movie I've seen in quite some time. So if that's more your bag than the comedy, I definitely would recommend It Follows.
Oh man, I loved it.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see that one.
It's great.
It's so good. It's one of the most legitimately terrifying movies I've seen in a long time. A lot of horror movies just kind of have left me cold recently, and this one really destroyed me.
I mentioned this in a write-up we did for Way Too Indie, but I was walking home from the theater and literally turning back when I heard footsteps behind me. Yeah, I hate when people act too scared by something that's obviously fiction, but this has a way of really getting under your skin.
I've actually got two picks here. The first one is just a quickie. It's a short actually, and you can find it now on Vimeo. So anybody listening to this, you can watch this right after you listen to this podcast. Of course, don't turn us off, please. But it's called Uncovering Eden. It's a short film about a 16-year-old girl named Edie who is Jewish, and she's hanging out with these people and one of the boys she's hanging out with she has a crush on, but her friend group turns out to be pretty anti-Semitic, and they kind of try to bully her into abandoning her Jewishness almost, and her Jewish grandmother who she lives with kind of gets in the middle of all of that. And it's made by a New York filmmaker named Chelsea Lupkin or Lupkin. I apologize, Chelsea. I'm saying that wrong. I actually spoke to Chelsea just recently. We have an interview with her going up this week. It's one of her first films. It's a short film, and she shows a lot of promise. I mean, it's not like a perfect film. There are some flaws, but it's the good things about it are really great. Like I think she's someone to watch. She already has a very keen visual style. She plays around with the timeline in the film a lot with flashbacks and flash forwards and stuff. Really cool. Check that out on Vimeo now. And also another indie, since we're going to be talking about blockbusters in a minute here, is a movie called They Look Like People, which is directed by Perry Blackshear and stars Evan Dumochel. I met these guys too. I feel so bad. But Evan Dumochel, he was a great, really charming guy. All three of these guys are handsome. But the third guy is McLeod Andrews, who plays Wyatt in the film. And Wyatt, I think the film takes place in New York, and Wyatt is this kind of paranoid guy who suspects that everyone in his life may be evil creatures, maybe kind of morphs, shapeshifters. He suspects that there's like an alien invasion coming, and he can't trust his closest friends. And his closest friend is played by Evan, and it's a really dark, kind of strange movie that is low budget but kind of is very resourceful and doesn't feel like a low budget film because the acting is so good and the writing and cinematography are so good. Creepy movie. I wouldn't say it's necessarily that scary. There are some scary moments, but it's more of it's actually it's pretty thought provoking. It's surprisingly thought provoking. So I suggest if you can find it. I don't think it has distribution yet, but if you can find it, check out They Look Like People by Perry Blackshear. We have an interview with these three guys going up this week as well, I think. So keep an eye out on those two, Uncovering Eden and They Look Like People.
Just one more quick one. Just about an hour ago, I walked out of the multiplex after seeing a new film called 71. Have either of you seen this one yet?
No, but I have definitely heard of it.
Yeah, I know there's a review on the site from Edward. He gave it an 8.5, and I think I would agree with that. It's takes place during the IRA revolts in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Jack O'Connell, who's sort of one of the hot young action stars right now. He plays a soldier who, during what should be a fairly routine mission going into Belfast and talking with the Catholic citizens there who are sort of rabble-rousing, shit hits the fan, and he gets separated from the rest of his troops. So he's basically stuck in Belfast overnight, enemies everywhere, people want to kill him, and he has to get out. And it's a really gripping thriller. That sort of premise seems like it would be a really insular sort of action movie, but it actually really expands well into this sort of almost espionage-like plot between people who are working in the IRA who have different sort of views on what they should be doing. And there's a lot of backstabbing and a little bit more of an interesting narrative than you would expect from sort of a small-scale action film like this. So it's definitely worth checking out.
All right, so those are some of the movies we've watched recently, some recent gems that we think you guys should watch. I know there were a few in there that I haven't seen yet that I'm really excited to watch, but I'm more excited, I would say. This is kind of shameful since this is the IndieCast, but I'm super, super excited for some of the blockbusters that are coming out this year. And guys, what blockbusters are you excited for? What are you most excited for, Zach, this year?
The one that really, really stuck out to me, just looking ahead to the coming months, on May 22nd, we finally get Tomorrowland from Brad Bird.
Yeah.
I am way more pumped about this movie than my Way Too Indie cred should allow me to be pumped for this. But Brad Bird is a really, really excellent director.
He's amazing.
I haven't really cared about the Mission Impossible franchise at all until his Ghost Protocol movie came out. That was one of the best action movies of the last few years. But of course, he's the Incredibles guy, and he's done so much work with Pixar. Iron Giant, even did work on Simpsons. This is a guy who's been involved with institutions. So, given that this is a Disney property, there might be reason to hesitate a little. It's based on a roller coaster ride, but the thing is, since there is so little to build around, I'm hoping Brad Bird has built something up original and awesome. So yeah, that's the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. I love Brad Bird. He's one of my favorite movie makers. Aaron, what are you looking forward to the most?
Okay, guys, it's coming sooner than Tomorrowland, so that's maybe a good thing. But lost the date.
May 1st?
Nope, hold on. Sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're choosing.
No, not the Avengers, even though I am super excited about that for sure. It is coming out on April the 3rd. It is Furious 7.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are fans of the Fast and Furious films, but
some of them.
I was a latecomer.
That's the right answer. Sure. That is the right answer.
I was a latecomer to the series. The first one I saw was Fast 5. Like many people, sort of coming into the series when it really seem to have turned a corner into being very entertaining, but also like just a huge like blockbuster that you have to see. Loved Fast Five. Fast Six, then, or yes, Fast Six or Fast and the Furious Six. I don't know what the hell these titles are, but Fast Six also incredibly enjoyable, just so much. And then now Furious Seven, which adds some new characters. Of course, it's Paul Walker's final entry into the Fast and Furious films, unfortunately, and very sadly. So I have a little bit of curiosity to see how they handle that. I guess that maybe is a little bit morbid, but to seeing how they write that character sunset him out of the franchise, because they're going to be making about 10 more of these, and I am super pumped for every single one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I've seen the first few movies were like okay to terrible, and then Fast Five was just I loved that movie.
They just pull out all the stops. They've stopped restraining themselves with these last couple installments, and it's made for just really enjoyable movies.
Absolutely. I mean, Fast Five was like a very actually fairly competent heist movie, and then Fast Six I think just had a great pulling the team together sort of vibe, and just sort of an increase in all the action and the comedy and everything in it. And now Jason Statham, you guys. I mean, so awesome. If there's one guy I think who needs to play a villain more in action films, it's Jason Statham.
Yeah. Furious 7. Is that what it's called? Furious 7?
Yeah, I think
whatever.
So
I think they actually
dropped the fast.
Yeah, I think they actually are calling. I mean, it should have been Furious 6, but I think they realized their mistake and Furious 7. I guess the other interesting thing about it is now they're changing directors. I don't have names in front of me, and I can't remember.
James Wan, the Saw director.
Saw,
right?
yeah. So I mean, that'll be sort of interesting to see how that plays. Of course, I think the last 4 have all been directed by the same
Justin Lin.
Justin Lin, that's right. And I think most people recognize that he had a lot to do with the increase in quality of those films. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that too. I'm just gonna make mine really quick and say that for the Force Awakens trailer came out months ago, and I watched it again 3 days ago. And I cried. I cried of excitement and happiness again. I cried the first time I saw it when the theme hit and we see the Millennium Falcon fucking doing a flip in the air. And I cried again just 3 days ago. It's been months since that trailer's been out. That's how excited I am for that goddamn movie. That's gonna do it for this segment. We're gonna take a little break, but after the break, we're gonna be discussing what our ideal movie watching environments are for each of us. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about that, so we'll see you on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Way Too Indiecast, the official podcast of way2indie.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Way2Indie. Hey guys, we're back. We talked about recent movies we love. We talked about new directors, new films, and blockbusters we're anticipating for this year. But now let's talk about a more all-encompassing subject: our ideal movie-watching environments. Zach, this was your idea. I think it's a great subject. So why don't you take this away?
Yeah, I sort of thought of the idea while listening to the Do You Like Prince Movies podcast. Wesley Morris had brought up that one of his ideal ways to take in a movie is at about 1 o'clock on a weekday. And that's such a rare occurrence for, I think, most of us. But I mean, I'm thinking personally back to times when I've been able to do that. And it's really, for me, that's a great atmosphere in a big multiplex that's probably much more empty than it normally is. And you're in the middle of your day, so you're able to, not lacking energy, enter the movie and really engage with it. I feel like I can leave the movie and have more intelligent thoughts about it when I see it in the middle of the afternoon like that. But obviously that's not something that we can do every time. For the most part, though, even if it's like a weekend or something, I do kind of like that mid-afternoon time. you don't leave the theater and it's dark outside, so suddenly your night's over. You're awake enough that you can really follow a movie no matter how complex it might get. So for me, I try to, when I can at least, schedule my free watch showtimes around the mid-afternoon. What about you guys?
It depends. As far as the environment is concerned, I watch movies, when I go to press screenings, it's always a different venue, so I've got a lot of different looks as far as theaters go. One thing I will say is that watching at home is never ideal for me. I think the perfect movie watching environment for me is kind of a sensory deprivation chamber where everything's kind of black. My favorite theater in San Francisco most of the time, depending on the movie, is the Roxy, which is just this long black fucking box of a room with a screen at the fucking end, and that's all you need because the movie hopefully will just do all the work and take you to somewhere else. But I think that's the point of movies, is to kind of transport you somewhere else and fool you into thinking something else is happening that's not, when you're actually just looking at light being projected on screen, right? It's an illusion. So anything that could throw me from that illusion is typically bad for me. So being at home, there's so many distractions that I think it's never ideal. But I will say there are caveats, because depending on the kind of movie it is, I'd rather, like some movies like dramas, I'd rather watch an empty theater, like a press screening in a private theater, like with like a 50 seats or something. That's great for that. But if it's like a scary movie, like a campy scary movie, I grew up next to this town called Vallejo, California, which is just it's really shitty town, like terrible crime rate and like really dumpy, kind of depressing type of place. But I loved watching horror movies there because the crowd was so raucous and wasn't afraid to talk during the movie. I remember watching Freddy versus Jason in Vallejo. There was a part where like Freddy was chasing a girl or something, and then someone in the audience was just like, "Bitch, you better run!" And I don't think I've ever laughed harder at at a movie screening. And then at the end of the movie, the same guy said, "Take your bets on Freddy versus Chucky." Or Leprechaun versus Chucky or something like that.
I think you're highlighting on an important aspect of the movie watching environment, though, is that it kind of has to match the tone of the movie. Yeah. If you're seeing something with a lot of energy, a blockbuster action movie, Apatow style comedy, or horror movies like that, it sometimes benefits from that crowd-filled environment. Whereas, like you're mentioning, those more intimate dramas, it's kind of nice when you get that screening room vibe and you can, really hone in on the movie. Aaron, I don't know if you have any feelings on the different types of energies you get from theaters.
I mean, well, first, like both of you have said, it has to be in a theater. Yeah, I think 90% of the theater going experiences I have are like matinees on a Saturday or a Sunday. I think I prefer that. The type of crowd will always sort of be different, but during the day, I think it's usually more people who want to see the movie instead of want to have a night out on the town.
Totally.
Though you can't escape rude people in theaters wherever you go. I think I prefer, like Bernard said, more intimate, small spaces. Like if you're going, I'm always excited when I go to the multiplex and I get into the theater that has like 100 seats. And of course, it depends on what type of film you're seeing there. Like when I see Fast and Furious or Furious 7, I'm going to see that in an IMAX theater, which is totally the opposite experience of that.
You want it to be a shared experience when it's that kind of movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you want the biggest screen and the loudest sound and, all of that. You want to come out like feeling like you were in a war zone. So
not to be the contrarian in the group, and I do appreciate the theater experience more than the at-home experience, but I do want to give like a shout out to the aspect of putting a movie on, kind of paying half attention to it while you do something else, and then recognizing that you have to put everything away because there's something special on the screen. I think that version of the home watching experience can sometimes rival the theater going experience, only in that you're setting up this expectation for yourself that you're only going to be somewhat entertained by a movie, and then it can sometimes surprise you. I don't know if that's something that either of you have experienced, but I find myself scrolling through HBOs and just discovering movies that I didn't anticipate I'd enjoy quite as much because I afforded it half of my attention at first.
I think I've had a similar kind of experience. That particular thing, I don't really do that much. I don't really. I don't know if that's happened to me very much. Maybe I'd enjoy it. I don't know. But I think the similar thing for me is when you just have those certain movies. Like for me, it's like Goodfellas, or My Cousin Vinny, or something. Where if it's on. I just watch no matter what point of the movie,
it's on. Stop whatever you're doing to finish.
Yeah. Like Goodfellas. If Goodfellas is on, I'm invested immediately. Yeah. So maybe what you're talking about is more powerful because you get invested in a movie that's already started. I think the thing that just sounds I'm a little hesitant about that experience is that it irks me to pay half attention to a movie.
Yeah.
I don't do it much. But I guess I have. I guess I used to before.
My struggle is always to find a movie that I feel like is worth only half my attention. It's usually those like mid-level action, mid-level comedy where I feel like I'll get the gist of it even if I'm not paying attention. But you can't expect to check out any movie with any type of intricate story and give it half your attention, then get the full experience out of it.
Yeah. But maybe it would prompt you to revisit and to watch it from the beginning and fall in love with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more looking for a movie that I might not have given any of my time, but fine.
I don't mind as much rewatching films that I've seen in the theater at home. I like to do that like toward the end of the year when I'm making decisions about top 10 lists and awards and stuff, because I kind of already know what to expect going in, but I can't trust myself. My phone is too close. My computer is too close by. I just always fall into that wormhole. And once I'm there, it's just like, I'm done. It's over.
As far as we're talking about the ideal environment. I've been to a lot of the theaters and screening rooms here in San Francisco, and I gotta say, the one that seems the most quote unquote ideal, if you're going to quantify, if you're going to kind of rate the sound, the picture, the vibe, or whatever, the acoustics, the best technical screening room I've been in, and there's a close second, but the best one is at Dolby Laboratories here in San Francisco in south of Market, the Soma district. It is wonderful. It's of course it's at Dolby Lab, so the sound is just ridiculous. They've got really great sound, and they also the picture is perfect. The picture quality is perfect. The size of the room is perfect. I think it's like 100 seats or something. They have comfortable seats. The walls are everything's like covered in some type of fabric, so the sound's really great.
I don't know if this is the case with your Dolby screening room, but my Dolby screening room here in New York is much narrower than most of the other screening rooms because I think they're giving you that, straight on view of the screen a little bit more.
Yeah.
It does seem better designed than most of the screening rooms that I've gotten a chance to see. How do you guys
got that? Oh, go ahead.
How do you guys generally like the screening room experience? I don't know if it's something that most people get to do, but we've had some access to movies that allow us, to see that in that different type of environment, a very more intimate theater going experience,
and with a very particular crowd as well.
Yeah, that's one of the more interesting things about it to me is like I'll see a comedy like Listen Up, Philip in a screening room, and there's maybe 20 critics there, and 5 of them are laughing their heads off because it's a particular type of humor. I was in the 5.
I love that experience. I love screening room experiences. We have here in San Francisco, we have the Variety Club screening room, which is very small. Great stuff. The projectionist there is awesome too, and super nice guy. I love that because it's just as far as crowds go when we're watching, like especially independent movies, which tend to be more I guess more substantial or richer experiences. Most of it's a generalization, but it's nice to be able to talk to those people afterwards. I'm an idiot, but I learn a lot from them speaking to them afterwards. So I love the screening room experience.
Making me jealous, guys. I don't have as much access to that sort of privilege, I guess.
I've heard.
Unfortunately,
the Chicago screening rooms are legendary too.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get you into some of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, I've definitely heard stories back in the Roger Ebert heydays. My wife actually, when she was going to college, she has a great story. I'll secondhand it, where she went to she was writing for a movie review for the paper. I don't even remember what movie it was for, but she sort of got to the screening room late, kind of sat toward the back. Then about a few minutes into the film, an usher came up to her and tapped her on the shoulder and said, excuse me, this seat is for Mr. Ebert. And so she had to take it up and move. But
yeah, we've got a similar thing here in San Francisco. I know it's so infamous, Roger Ebert seat that no one's allowed to take. I think here in San Francisco we've got a Mr. Mick LaSalle, a fantastic writer who I'm kind of scared of, to be to be honest. But I'm in the San Francisco Film Critics Circle, as is he, and it's just weird. Seeing him, he's kind of scared, but he's just such a great writer. Everyone else is in there except for me. But when we go to screenings, he also has like a seat almost designated for him, and I've seen people kind of get kicked out of that seat as well. It's kind of a strange thing to me, but
yeah,
I guess that's the tradition.
I can totally understand it. I mean, I'm sort of OCD in that way. Like I love getting into like the exact middle of the theater.
I like to be towards the back. That's kind of a personal comfort thing, in that I like to know what's going on in the room I'm in. And especially when it's those intimate screening rooms like that, where there won't be a lot of room in front of me if I'm too close to the screen. I'm more of a sit in the back so I can have a lay of the environment type of guy.
I depending on the movie, I guess if it's like if it was the Avengers, I tried to sit I tried to sit in the middle of the row, like 3 or 4 rows from the back, so almost to the back, but in the middle. That's like kind of my optimal movie like spot. But most of the time, I try to sit a couple seats or right on the aisle. In the middle, because I like getting the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I'm definitely an aisle seat person. But
yeah.
The big exception to all of these rules is whether or not the multiplex has a railing that you can put your feet on.
Oh, yeah. That is a good tip. I like the railing. I like the railing.
Too. I'm a fan of railings and footrests.
Yeah, sometimes I just put my feet on the person's head in front of me. and I just say, don't move or I'll kill you. And then I just sit there for the rest of the
This is how I get comfortable.
Yeah.
With an attitude like that, you're going to get your own reserved seat in that screening room. So I think the one exception that I consciously made to sit as close to the screen as possible was for Gravity. But besides that, I like to be...
Why Gravity?
Just so
immersion.
I felt it to be a little bit more immersed in the space. I thought would have been fun and actually turned out to be a pretty good experience. But generally, I like to be where I can look straight forward and have most of my field of view.
Yeah, the thing that people don't really give enough attention to is that when you sit in the back, especially the very back, the center of the screen is right on your eye line. So it's actually it's you don't have to crane your neck at all.
Yeah.
That's the optimal as far as neck position, I guess, is concerned. And eye line, it kind of makes a difference to me. I also got to mention that I've seen only a couple screenings at Skywalker Ranch, which was unbelievable. Crazy experience. It was weird though. The movie I saw there was The Square, which is like this Netflix documentary from early last year.
It's a very random one to have seen there.
Yeah, it was super random, but it was a great movie. I actually it was weird because at the screening, Rashida Jones was there and she was sitting like a few seats away from me and my wife, and then my wife was just like, "Is that fucking Rashida Jones?" And I was like, "Yeah, that is Rashida Jones. What the fuck is she doing here?" And then I kind of pussied out and didn't say anything on my way out, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll end it there, boys.
Sounds good.
That was a great talk. I think we may even bring this up again because I love this subject. It fascinates me what people's preferences are for movie watching environments. But this was fun. This is the first time the three of us have gotten together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty romantic, a little menage a trois on this
Pretty
edition
sensible.
of the IndieCast. Yeah, sensible. So thank everyone who listened to this for listening. We had a great time. Zach, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Zshevich. That's at ZSHEV for Victor, not Victoria, ICH. Or on Multiplex at youtube.com/Multiplex Show or multiplexshow.com, where I do video reviews. Also, all the writing for Way Too Indie.
Yeah, I love Movieplex. You guys should all check that stuff out. He does good work there. And Aaron, where can we find you on Twitter and social media?
Twitter at PinkstonAA. That's PINKSTONAA. I also have a second Twitter account where all I do is tweet every movie that I watch.
Nice.
So it's just sort of a cataloging experiment. I actually just started it this year, but you can follow that at AP_watches.
Awesome. That's very cool. I didn't know about that. My Twitter handle is is it underscore? No, I don't know what it is. It's at BJ_boo.
There you go.
That's that BJ_BOO. And you can find Way Too Indie on Facebook. Give us a like on there. We'd appreciate it. Find us on Twitter at Way Too Indie. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've even got a fucking Spotify account now.
Ooh.
So find us on there. We're featuring
the best 50 songs of the decade so far. That went out all this week, and it's a really good playlist. Bernard, I know you helped put that together, so I want to thank you because I've had a lot of great music to listen to this last week.
Yeah, I love the playlist. I actually can't take any credit for putting it together. I wrote. We had a couple written up pieces that went up, and I wrote a couple of those. But I had no hand. I can't take any credit for putting that together.
Well, credit to all our music writers.
Our music writers have great taste. Check that out on Spotify. We're on Instagram as well. That's I guess you can check us out there. But we're everywhere. Way2indie.com, and especially check out the site. We're really working hard to make the site something special for you guys, and we love providing you guys with great stuff. And this week, especially because we have new directors, new films coverage going up on there. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week. And goodbye. Blah.
Blah.
Thanks for listening.